YouTube found a community, Beatles fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggins. We're here today to talk about Meet the Beatles, the 60th anniversary reissue in mono, the Target version on opaque blue vinyl. This thing is so rad. Let me just tell you first off, I've loved this album since I was about 5 years old. Going into the store and buying my own brand new copy of Meet the Beatles for the first time was like something else. Every copy I've ever owned was somebody else's. So to go to the store and buy a brand new one and open it myself and play it for the first time was truly special, and definitely like brought me back to being a kid, discovering this record for the first time, and knowing that I was the first person to put the needle down on the grooves and listen to it was very heartwarming to me. So right off the bat, love that. Second, this won't be a track-by-track review of the album. I've done that already, so that video is probably going to pop up on the displayed thing on the side somewhere. This is just an overview of the sound, the presentation, everything about this particular release. If you've been living under a rock for the past few weeks or months, the Beatles just put out a big box set of all their 1964 US albums on vinyl in mono. It's exciting because I grew up with these records, as a lot of other people did, and to see them back on vinyl again is cool because it's been a very long time, well over 30 years since they've been on vinyl in the stores to buy. Early on, for some reason, I remember hearing that Target was doing versions of all these albums. I guess it's just Meet the Beatles. Maybe I read that wrong, but if that is true, that would be pretty cool. But regardless, this thing, right off the bat, sounds fantastic, looks great. It's just cool. The cover is what they call direct-to-board pressing. So basically, it's just one solid board that they put the picture on. Back in the 60s, it was that tip-on. So it was like a big sticker, and they would put it on top of the cardboard. So back in the day, you'd see like a difference between the top banner up here and the actual sticker of the cover over here. They started doing this style in the 70s. So this is kind of how it would look if you bought it in the mid to late 70s, which is really nice. But the back cover is a little, I wouldn't say yellowed, but it's not exactly white. It's like an off-white, which is kind of cool. It makes it look a little more historical. But they did a fantastic job recreating every last detail on this thing, even down to the no George Martin credit, which is nice. The cover itself over the years has had a mixture of different colors, like this darker red. It's been a little green. It's been a little bit of brown. Maybe this is kind of brown if you want to call it that. But anyway, the sticker says limited edition, Target exclusive, 60th anniversary on opaque blue vinyl. Down here, the Beatles. The Beatles are coming. Replica of the original mono US album release. Analog cut from the original master tapes on 180-gram audiophile color vinyl. Includes an insert featuring in-depth essay on the history of the album, which it does. Here's the insert here. So this is the original tape box for Meet the Beatles. I love how it says the Beatles of England up there, which is pretty rad. On the back, it does mention the mastering notes, which is fantastic. Let me just read a little bit off to you about that, because I know they reissued the mono albums on CD about 10 years ago, but all they did was take the digital 2009 remasters and threw them onto the track list of the American releases, put the American covers on, put it out. These are actually cut from the original tapes for the first time in a very long time. So it says, this album was cut for vinyl from the original master tapes using a completely analog signal path and with constant reference to first generation pressings of the original albums. It was made using a Studer A80 master recorder with analog preview and program paths and a Neumann VM S70 cutting lathe, originally installed in Capitol Studios in 1971. This specific all-analog cutting technique allows faithful representation of the full musical range and dynamics present on the original tapes. And on the back, it just gives you information about when the record came out, its call letters. It thanks Yoko, Olivia, and the Beatles, of course. And the audio master lacquers were cut by Kevin Reeves. Liner notes by Bruce Spicer. Everyone's favorite Bruce Spicer has written 1,000 books about the Beatles. And here you go, 1001. Really nice write-up about the Beatles coming to America, and specifically about the tapes and what happened at Capitol in the early days of getting this thing set up for release, and how they had several attempts to put this thing out already, and they just kept saying no. But they couldn't say no any longer because Beatlemania in England was massive. And so at the end of 63, they were like, fine, give us the tapes, we'll do it. And Dave Dexter did his thing and put a bunch of reverb on it and created the American Beatles sound, if you will. But I love looking at this thing. It's just so cool to see the handwriting for all the tracks, the times. Do not bake. It's an acetate. Digitally archived by Capitol at one point. Further still, They recreate the original inner sleeve, which looks absolutely fantastic. The paper is a lot heavier than it was back in the day. It's a much heavier inner sleeve, which you don't have to use because the record itself is in a polyline sleeve. It's a really heavy, I'm assuming 180 gram vinyl. It's got the weight to it, but this vinyl, check this out. So on the surface, it just looks like a standard light blue. When you hold it up to the light, I'm not sure how this is going to show too well. I might have to do an insert on this thing because the opaqueness of the vinyl does show. It's much more marbly looking when you hold it up to the light. And I posted about it on Instagram the other day. I might be the first person to notice that. I don't know, but super clean look on this thing. Let's see what the Dead Wax has to say. There's just call letters and, you know, serial numbers. Kevin Reeves' signature is on there. East Iris is on there as well. But they recreated the labels down to the last little detail, not including the ASCAP or BMI like the original ones were. Same on side 2, you got Kevin Reeves' signature on there again. That blue just looks so rad. It's so fun, man. As far as the sound goes, I have to admit, I was blown away. The bass is much more present. The top end is very clear, but not shrill. That mid-range punch really brings things home. It sounds lifelike, like they're in the room playing with you. The first time I dropped the needle and I Want to Hold Your Hand started, I was like, oh my God, this sounds incredible. It's truly a special sounding record. Now, I know for those of you keeping track at home, a lot of these are full downs from the original stereo to make the mono mix. There are a couple of true mono songs on here, but regardless of that, regardless of where it came from, that it's a fold down, who cares? It sounds awesome. I've heard this album a million times. I've got 1,000 different copies of this thing. Hearing it with the bass so present, the drums so clean and punchy, the vocals shimmering on top, this is worth its weight. And it's absolutely got me having a little bit of FOMO trying to get the rest of the box at this point. Maybe I will just give in and buy the box at some point. I don't want to. $300 is really steep. But yeah, having at least this record means the absolute world to me because this is the one that got me into the Beatles. This was the first album I ever heard. I Want to Hold Your Hand was the first song I ever heard from the guys. Without this record, I wouldn't be the fan that I am of anything, probably because this was the first album I ever heard, I think, by a band that wasn't the Chipmunks. So for me, this record means a lot. So 10 out of 10. Easy. It's the Beatles, man. 10 out of 10. If you live near a Target and you see it, pick it up. You're going to have a good time listening to it. It was really fun to put it on and hear it so fresh and so vibrant. They did a great job with the tapes. I was really surprised. I knew they would because at this point, if it says mono and Beatles, they have to do a good job because the fans will rip them apart. So it has to be done well. But anyways, that's it. Just a quick little video to talk about this thing. But yeah, Meet the Beatles, reissue, mono. This is the Target one. I hope to get the box set at some point or at least pick up the individual titles as I go over the next few months. But there you go. My name is Giggins. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this record as well. If you've heard this new reissue or you've gotten the box or you plan on picking one up, let me know. I'm happy to chat about it with you guys. But thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.